are other top stories of the news. ASUU expresses hope new agreement with federal government will prevent strikes. Shettima, Akpabio, other dignitaries commemorate Armed Forces Remembrance. On the foreign scene, President Trump calls Minnesota ICE shooting sad to see on both sides. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. I am Timitope Ajijolaoluwaola. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has expressed hope that the new agreement it signed with the federal government will prevent strikes for at least 3 years. The two parties on Wednesday signed and unveiled a new agreement aimed at improving the quality of the university education system and ensuring stability. Over the years, ASUU has repeatedly gone on strike to demand increased funding for public universities, better welfare for lecturers, and full enforcement of previous agreements. Speaking in a news charts this morning, the president of ASUU, Professor Chris Pewona, said if properly implemented, the new agreement could prevent frequent strikes. The ASUU president said the new agreement incorporates an implementation monitoring team, which will be domiciled at the National Universities Commission, NUC, and coordinated by the Office of the Executive Secretary of the NUC. Speaking at the unveiling of the agreement on Wednesday, the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, described the new agreement as a decisive turning point in the history of the country's tertiary education system.
Unveiling a document, it symbolizes renewed trust, restored confidence, and a decisive turning point in the history of Nigeria's tertiary education system. Today's agreement is a clear and deliberate, with unprecedented demonstration of the accessible and uninterrupted academic calendars for all Nigerian students in a tertiary institution. Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's benevolence, courage, and conviction are unmistakably evident throughout this process. He understands deeply that education is the bedrock of any modern, productive, and prosperous society. That is why, for the first time in the history of this country, a sitting president took full control, full ownership of this long-standing challenge that confronted the educational system and accorded its leadership attention to getting us to where we are today. For decades, unresolved remunerations concerns, welfare gaps, and recurring industrial disputes disrupted academic calendars, undermined staff morale, and threatened the future of our young citizens. Under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we deliberately chose dialogue over discord, reform over delay, and resolution over rhetorics.
In the meantime, the Trade Union Congress, TUC, has backed the industrial action embarked upon by the joint health sector unions, JHESL. JHESL, an affiliate of TUC, directed its members to continue the ongoing industrial action that started on November 15, 2025, despite the federal government's directive enforcing the no work, no pay policy. The decision followed an emergency virtual meeting of the union's national leadership held on Monday after the expiration of a 72-hour extension of the strike. Reacting, the TUC knocked the federal government for allegedly trying to intimidate the protesting health workers without considering the economic realities. In the statement released on Wednesday, signed by its president, Festus Osifo, and Secretary General N.A. Toro. The Congress describes the directive as unacceptable and said it undermined ongoing negotiations between the government and unions. The TUC said the action violated established industrial relations principles and accused the Ministry of acting unilaterally while negotiations were still ongoing. According to the Congress, the stoppage of salaries of JOHESA members would worsen the hardship faced by houseworkers amid rising inflation, fuel price increases, and other economic challenges. In another development, the Nigeria Immigration Service has announced the rollout of an enhanced passport tracking feature. The update posted by the service on X this morning followed rising public clamor over delays in passport issuance and collection. According to the service, it had observed that hundreds of passports produced had remained uncollected, leading to increasing complaints from applicants. The feature is intended to give applicants clearer visibility on when their passports are ready for pickup or courier delivery, thereby reducing uncertainty around processing timelines. The development followed weeks of heightened criticisms from passport applicants, including prominent Nigerians who have taken to social media to express frustration with the process. Moving on, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day Parade and wreath-laying ceremony took place at the National Arcade in Abuja this morning. Vice President Kashim Shettima, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, House Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, Minister of Defense Christopher Musa, and other dignitaries attended the event. The dignitaries were led to the cenotaph in a solemn march by soldiers, where they laid a wreath in remembrance of the fallen heroes who gave their lives in service to the nation. Prayers were also conducted for the living and fallen heroes who fought gallantly for global peace and national integration. Following the prayers, a minute of silence was observed in honor of the fallen heroes, immediately followed by the firing of the artillery gun. The wreath-laying ceremony, which involves the placing of flowers at a memorial site, then commenced at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And now to politics. The impeachment move against Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Odo has suffered another setback as two more members of the State House of Assembly have withdrawn their support for the process. The call for a peaceful resolution of the political crisis in the state. Barilla Nwako, who represents Hana Constituency 1, and Amelia Amadi of Obio Akbor Constituency 2, made their positions known barely 48 hours after two lawmakers announced a similar decision. Although the legislators maintained that the governor and his deputy may have breached constitutional provisions, they said their change of stance followed interventions by respected leaders and stakeholders who appealed for restraint in the interest of peace and stability. With the latest development, 4 of the 26 lawmakers who initially endorsed the notice of alleged gross misconduct have now distanced themselves from the impeachment move. The Rivers State House of Assembly is expected to reconvene plenary today as attention shifts to how the leadership of the House will navigate the deepening divisions.
We have been inundated with calls from some of our leaders and Rivers people begging that we seek a political solution to this problem created by the governor and the deputy governor. On this call, we hereby state our willingness to look at a political solution rather than an outright removal of the due. We call on our members to also consider this approach. We do not say this as a sign of weakness, but because we have forgiving hearts and as mothers. It is our hope and expectation that assurances will come from the governor and the deputy governor that they would retrace their steps and govern in a line with the Constitution as kept to all agreement enter with the supervision of Mr. President.
I represent the FCT Minister, His Excellency, Chief Barrister Ezenwonye Somwike. He is my constituent. And I want to let you know that before coming for this press briefing, that I informed him. I told him of it. But he said to me that I should do whatever my conscience tells me to do, in line with the Constitution, and keep all agreements entered with the supervision of Mr. President for the good and betterment of Rivers State and Nigeria.
In the court, the National Judicial Council, NJC, has recommended the elevation and appointment of the presiding justice of the Court of Appeal and Nogo Division, Justice Olubunmi Oyewole, for appointment as a Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. NJC's Deputy Director of Information, Kemi Babalola Ogidingbe, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday. Babalola Ogidingbe sat the council at its 110th meeting held on Tuesday and presided over by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekirieko, recommended Justice Oyewole for appointment as the Justice of the Court, alongside 35 other candidates for various judicial offices across the country. Justice Oyewole born on May 13, 1965, as from Ilarogun, Osun State, and takes the southwest slot, made vacant as a result of the retirement of the immediate past Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola. Apart from Justice Oyewole, 27 others were approved for appointments as judges of various high courts. The council has also classed the Chief Judge of Osun State, Justice Oyebola Adekpele-Ojo, of all allegations bordering on financial recklessness, diversion of funds, and judicial misconduct. The council said it took the decision after considering an important report of a 3-member investigation committee constituted to probe the petitions filed against the Chief Judge. Meanwhile, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has congratulated Justice Joseph Oyewole on his appointment to the Supreme Court, describing the elevation as well-deserved and a source of pride to the state. This was contained in a statement issued this morning by his spokesperson, Olawale Rashid. Governor Adeleke praised the jurist's character and track record in the administration of justice, noting that he is an embodiment of integrity and his commitment to justice as unparalleled. He added that his elevation to the bench of Nigeria's topmost court is a proud moment for Osun State, and on behalf of the good people of the state, it celebrates the remarkable achievement. The governor further expressed confidence in the ability of the new Supreme Court Justice to discharge his duties with distinction, citing his extensive experience on the bench. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.